Hey everyone, right now I'm here in the beautiful city of Prague. I've been living here for a while now and really getting to know the city pretty well. So today I want to share with you 7 things you need to know before visiting. Okay, so to start off, I think the first thing you should know when traveling to Prague is that you definitely don't need to have a car to get around in this city. It's super accessible by walking and public transportation that I don't recommend wasting your money renting a car or taking Ubers everywhere. Firstly, if you're staying downtown or near downtown, most of the things you're going to want to see and do and the restaurants you'll eat at, they're typically within a walking distance, and it's a beautiful city to walk around in. So you're going to want to stroll the streets and get to know it just on foot. And if you want to see something that's just a little bit outside of this downtown center, it's really easy to get around using the public transportation system. They have a below ground metro system, above ground tram system, and a bus system that is easy to use and simple to get around. So it's super convenient to travel within the city limits. But there is one really essential thing to know before just hopping on the public transportation system here, and that is how the payment works. It's probably different than a lot of cities in the world because here, the first couple weeks I was noticing that people were just walking on for what seemed like it was free. No one was really doing anything or buying tickets before getting on the metro or the bus. So I was really confused, but I actually learned that you're supposed to pay well in advance online on this app called PID. You can get short-term, long-term, or even year-long tickets. Or you can do it in person and pay for this physical ticket. But basically, you don't have to scan anything to get in on the bus. But sometimes police officers will walk around on the system here and they'll ask to see your ticket. If you can't prove you have one, you can get fined and in trouble with the police. So you can take a chance and risk it and maybe you won't get caught. But essentially, you don't want to do that and mess with getting in trouble. So I'd recommend just buying in advance. It's really cheap and easy to use. And moving on to a second thing I think is really good to know about traveling here in Prague is that the city feels extremely safe day and night. I think in total, the Czech Republic as a country was ranked in the top 10 of safest places in the world. But here in Prague, walking around really late at night after going to bars or clubbing or in the day in tourist areas, basically everywhere you're going to be walking around in the city, it feels really safe and like no harm is going to come to you. My girlfriend can attest to this as well. Whenever we walk around, we don't feel like we're in any kind of physical danger. Maybe in some of the tourist spots, there's some pickpocketing or petty crimes, but I don't think there's ever been a threat of any physical assault or anything of that nature. And after 2 really great positives about this city, I'm moving on to point number 3. And this is by no means a negative, but it's the fact that a lot of people in the Czech Republic here are very straight-faced. They're not really smiley and aren't really into small talk and all those types of conversations. The first couple weeks I was here, it was kind of scary because I would walk into a cafe and the person behind the counter would just be pretty straight-faced and stare back at me until I said something. Or on the public transportation, people are just looking forward and are kind of quiet. But as soon as you get people talking, they're very, very friendly, very welcoming, and warm-hearted. But it was kind of like a culture shock for me because coming from where I'm from, there's a lot of small talk, maybe talking about the weather, talking about what people do, and just very quick things. But here, they just want to talk about what's important, have a conversation about what we need, what needs to get done, but none of the other like in between kind of conversations. So it's okay to just be quiet and be introspective and hang out, but you don't have to always be communicating and smiley and bubbly. It's just part of the culture here, but Czech people are very welcoming and warm to you. And now moving on to my 4th point about traveling here, which is actually how to refer to the name of the country you're traveling in and the location of the country. So firstly, most people know that there's 2 interchangeable names for this country, the Czech Republic and Czechia. People use both of them. Both are perfectly acceptable. However, there's 2 things you should never do when you're here or whenever you're talking about the country in general. And that is, you shouldn't refer to it as the old name Czechoslovakia. That is considered rude. It is not Czechoslovakia. It is its own country. And the second thing is you actually should consider the Czech Republic as to be a part of Central Europe. I made the mistake in my first couple of days telling someone that I love Eastern Europe, seeing Eastern European cultures and all that, and they were really quick to correct me and say that the Czech Republic is a part of Central Europe and Central European culture. It is not Eastern Europe, it is not Czechoslovakia, and both of those things are rude. So know that going forward and just use Czech Republic or Czechia and everything will be okay. And with all those things being said in my first 4 points, the next 3 points I want to talk about are basically how tourism works here in this city and everything you should know as a tourist here. So point number 5, I want to talk about the tourist centers in Prague. Essentially, you'll find that a lot of the foreigners who are visiting are all congregated in downtown Prague, Old Town, Prague 1 and Prague 2, where you'll find all of the brick streets, the beautiful cathedrals, the castles, the Charles Bridge, all of that you're going to want to see and do on your sightseeing here. But you'll also find that those areas definitely have inflated prices, basically tourist prices, So if you're staying downtown, you want to walk and go to all those restaurants, great for you, especially if you have money and you're not worried about it. But if you want to do things cheaper or more local and authentic like you would actually in the Czech Republic, you have to go outside of those tourist hubs to get the true authentic experiences. You can find a few hidden things in the middle and all of that are really authentic, but a lot of that's for tourists. You want to get outside the city to really experience it. And similarly, kind of going off of that, you'll find that the English level in Prague changes based on where you are. If you're visiting and you're staying in those tourist hubs in Prague 1 and Prague 2, anywhere really in the downtown area, a lot of times if you walk into restaurants or basically anywhere you go, you'll find that the people there you're talking to know English and can help you. They're very friendly and welcoming, and they can speak your language, and it's really helpful to have that English connection, experience, and get by in that language. But as you expand out, the further you go out, the less English you'll find. It's basically like a big sphere. And the farther you go away from the center, you'll find less and less English, more people who don't speak it. And then if you leave the city entirely, the level drops considerably. So if you're worried about the language barrier, the closer you are to the center, the more English you'll find, and know that going forward. And lastly, the seventh thing I want to talk about today is how money and tipping culture work here in the Czech Republic. So the first thing to know is that even though the Czech Republic is a part of the European Union, they have their own currency, the Czech crown. So don't come here with euros or US dollars and trying to pay in that. They really don't like when you pay in foreign currency. Exchange it to the local currency or pay with your credit card, and everything will be fine with that. And as for tipping, it's generally expected to give around 10% in the service industry at restaurant and bars, or at least rounding up to the nearest 100. So if your bill came out to like 460 crowns and you want to give them a 500 and the 40 is the tip, that's normally fine, or generally just go for around 10% and everything will be great. But actually, instead of ending this video right now, I want to give one more bonus tip to anyone who's visiting Prague, and that's the fact that beer is basically the same price as water here in the Czech Republic. Like if you're getting a local Pilsner at a bar, it'll be around 55 to 65 crowns. And if you want to buy a mineral water or still water, anything like that, that's not tap water, it's typically around the same price, and it's the same in the grocery store. An individual beer and an individual bottle of water are right around the same price range. So that's kind of a fun fact for people who are visiting and like to drink beer. If you go local, it's so cheap. And now with that, those are 7 things I think are essential to know before traveling here to Prague, and even an 8th bonus tip for you. So thank you everyone for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed, found it useful, and please follow along for more content in Europe and throughout the world.